Hi all. We are going to look at theme B here. Now, I'm going to go through some general keywords and key teachings and see how we can best apply these to exam answers for this theme. Kind of the overview for this. So we're going to look at the origins of the universe, including the 7-day creation story versus Big Bang Theory. Value of the world, how we value things, and if we value them, we look after them. So thinking about dominion and stewardship, or for Muslims, being a khalifa. Use and abuse of the environment and pollution. So what are we doing to destroy our environment, but also more importantly, what are we doing to fix it? What role do Christians and Muslims feel they play in this? Does God have an expectation and a purpose set out for them? Same and similar for use and abuse of animals. To what extent can we use them and when does it become abuse? So can we use them for food? Which ones can we use for food? Can we use them for work in the fields? Can we use them to experiment on for medication or for cosmetics? Where is the line and how do they morally feel about this? Then we've got the origins of human life. So we're going back to where does life begin? This is more about evolution versus the sort of Adam and Eve story of Holy Scripture. Abortion, again, thinking about the beginnings of life, but this time through pregnancy. When does the fetus become a living being? Does that control its rights or change how we feel about it? Euthanasia, do we have the right to die? If God gives us life, do we have the right to take it away, or do we have more autonomy over our decisions? Should we be able to decide if we want to die a painless death? And do doctors have a right to allow us to have that? Do they have a duty to help us die in the way that we want to if we are terminally ill? And then after death, what happens at the end of life? Is there an afterlife? Is it just the end? And what do Muslims and Christians think about this? Okay, so key teachings, guys. There's obviously loads of quotes and loads of teachings you can use, but I just want to highlight some of the best ones to make sure you really know and that you can get your teeth into and understand. The first one being obviously sanctity of life. You can't really talk about anything in this unit without talking about this. This belief that all life is sacred and created by God, therefore it should be preserved. This is going to be your go-to because if God creates life, then you have to respect it and honour it. Now, this does really refer to humans rather than animals, but it very much is important for things like abortion, euthanasia, or anything about how humans use their own lives. Secondly, we've got this belief about creation, very basic one for Christians, Genesis 1:1, first words of the Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and earth. Again, if God created the world, he created the heavens, he created the earth, does that change our attitudes towards it? For Muslims, the similar part from the Hadith, do not seek from it more than what you need. So don't take from the world anything more than from what you need. For Christians, then obviously we've got stewardship, again in the garden, who's told to take care of it as humans, that's our purpose. For Muslims, it says no soul may die except by God's permission at a predestined time, linking that predestination in with this view that God has a purpose for our lives. Dominion being the sort of alternative or the contrasting view to stewardship. We actually have the right to eat animals, to potentially experiment on them, because he says that we can rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky. And then lastly, quality of life. How free from pain is your life, and therefore how much quality does it have? This is particularly important for euthanasia, and a good keyword to use.
Okay, so let's have a little look at how we're going to apply these teachings to, for example, a 5-mark question. So this 5-mark question is explain 2 religious teachings about the origins of the universe. Now, first of all, we are in a themes unit, so we have to make note of the fact it says religious teachings. And then we're on origins of the universe. So not origins of life. So immediately origins of the universe, I'm going to be thinking about the 7-day creation story, the Muslim views on sort of the over a period of time. I may think about the Big Bang Theory as well, but I know for 5-mark question I'm going to need to use the Bible or the Quran, so I'm probably going to need to use this Genesis quote, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So let's think. So in 2 religious beliefs about the origins of the universe. Well, first things first, they believe that in the beginning. So Christians believe that God created the universe out of nothing. That was my first mark. They believe that he created it in 7 days, because and then that's my second mark because it specifies the 7 days. Because in the Bible it says, in the beginning God created heaven and the earth. That's my third mark. Now I need a second view. Some Christians who believe that God created the universe accept the scientific explanation of the Big Bang Theory. There's my fourth mark. Because they believe God was ultimately responsible for it. There's my fifth mark. Okay. Note, I'm going to use this linking term because in my answers to sort of make the distinction between the first mark and the second mark of each point. To get a first mark, Christians believe in the science. So what's my belief? They believe in the scientific explanation because God was ultimately responsible for it. I've explained the first point with my second point. Okay, so each one is essentially 2 marks for the first box, then my third mark for the reference to the source material, then 2 marks in the second box. First one before the because, second point after the because. And the next one, so another 5 mark question here, explain 2 religious teachings about the use and abuse of animals. So again, I'm on religious teachings, use and abuse of animals. So if I'm thinking about animals, I'm thinking about my responsibility towards them. I'm automatically going to bring into my head stewardship and then dominion. I need to try and get one or both of these in here if I can. So I'm going to start with some Christians believe that we can use animals. There you go, I've used the question there. Use animals for food because, so first point is there. Some Christians believe that we can use animals for food, 1 mark. Because it is forbidden, it is not forbidden in the Bible, and it does not say that God, and it does say that God gives us dominion, 2nd mark. Here's my 3rd mark, because in the Bible it says, and this time I've picked the dominion, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky. Then I need a different point. Now bear in mind if I put contrasting here, or even just different, I can, or similar, I can use my second stewardship point. Another view is that Christians will be careful not to abuse animals. That's using the question there. So use for the first point, abuse for the second point, because alongside dominion, God instructs us to be stewards of the earth and take care of it. Look at that structure of the because again, okay? Another view is that Christians will be careful not to abuse animals. That's 1 mark. Why? Because alongside dominion, God instructs us to be stewards of the earth and take care of it. There's my 2nd mark. I can always direct quote this as well. I'm not going to lose marks. It will just ensure that I get those marks. There is quite simple 5 mark answer to this, guys. You do not need to be writing whole essays for these 4 and 5 mark questions, okay? You can say a lot with a few words. You just need to make sure you're structuring it carefully to make sure you've said enough to get your points. What is it that they actually believe about the use and abuse of animals? That we can use them, but we shouldn't abuse them. We can use them for food, we could use them for farming, we could use them for lots of other things, but there is this instruction also that we must not abuse them, we must take care of them because we have this stewardship as well. Okay, so let's now take this theme to the 12 mark questions. I'm going to look at application here, particularly for there is never a good reason for abortion. First of all, pick out the language of this question. It says never. So what are your sort of differences to that? So it's either it's never or maybe it's sometimes there's a good reason, or is there never a good reason? You're likely, if it ever says never or always, going to be able to conclude that that's the case because it takes away all those kind of it depends on the circumstances sort of answers. So it's nice to see this kind of absolute in the question. It gives you a lot that you can debate about and that you can evaluate. So agree side is going to say, yes, there are sometimes good reasons. Disagree is going to say, no, there are never good reasons. So re-establish what this question is asking us, okay? Is abortion always wrong? Is it sometimes wrong? Is it never wrong? What reasons are affected by this? So I've chosen a few here. So I've got a woman should not have to give any reasons. It's her body, her choice. And then I've just done in my plan a little link to my keywords there. Pro-choice, quality of life. Then on the disagree side, immediately linking to this. However, unborn fetuses should be protected even from their mother, no matter the reasons. And then that's my sanctity of life there. On the agree side again, but if the mother's life is in danger, and it's either her or the unborn child who will die, is it abortion sometimes the lesser of two evils? Again, linking to some key words here. Then we've got on the other side, however, Catholics, remember, because they're the ones who really don't ever want abortions. Pregnancy is part of God's plan, even if it's a result of rape. The child is innocent and could be given up for adoption. You shall not murder. Two very strong points on both sides here. So your job is to say, are any of these good enough reasons for an abortion? That's what you're evaluating. That's what judgment you are needing to make. Now, you might conclude in a way that says depends, particularly if it's an always, or the statement has a kind of real definite answer in it. It's always a good thing. It's never a good thing. So sometimes you might want to conclude somewhere in the middle, because a lot of you, when we do our debates, you're somewhere, oh, you're not quite sure. And a lot of people in the world are like that as well. So your conclusion is it depends. It depends on your religious beliefs or the circumstances around your pregnancy. And if there's a danger to the mother's life or mental well-being, then it is difficult to say the word never. So again, what does this actually look like if we write it into an argument? So I've just taken a little bit out of here and typed it up so that we can sort of see the structure of these questions. And again, I've focused in on this word never, and feel free to point this out to the examiner as well. It is difficult to argue that there is never a good reason for abortion, because if the mother's life is in danger, or the baby's quality of life will be poor, there is a strong argument to be made that abortion is sometimes the lesser of two evils. On the other hand, using my evaluative language, some religious believers will argue that it is just evil. Then I'm going to quote from the Bible. The Bible clearly states, "Thou shalt not murder," and they do believe that the baby is alive in the mother's womb. Terminating a pregnancy will always, therefore, be wrong, no matter what the circumstances. Calling it once back towards the question. When I use the word never, if I use the word always, if I use the word sometimes, and I'm talking about reasons, I'm calling it back to the statement, there is never a good reason for abortion, without having to repeat that over and over again. But I'm showing that I'm keeping it very relevant to the statement, very relevant to the question, and structuring my answer around this. So you can see how I've put in two of these points in a very short paragraph, but every word says something. There's a quote in there, there's 3 or 4 key words in there, you've got listening back to the statement, you've got this evaluative language, so it's difficult to think this. On the other hand, it could be this. It's clearly stating. All of this is showing judgment, and that's what you need to be doing in this question. Not who's right and who's wrong, but who's most convincing, who's got the most meaningful, who's got the most useful argument, and making a judgment as to who argues it the best, who's got the best reasons, and then saying why you think it. This really is a great unit with a lot of interesting issues in it. Very controversial ones as well. Can we believe in science, or do we have to still rely on the word of religious scripture today? What is my purpose in life? Is that being given to me by God? Am I to be looking after the planet, or is there a bigger, different reason for me today? What about human life? Where does it even begin? In the womb, when the baby's born, and how should it end? Do I have the right to make these decisions over my own life? Or is God the only one who can make these big life and death decisions? And when I die, what even happens to me? Is there a life after death? And is that more important than this life? Should I be working towards that life, trying to find my purpose, be eating halal, be eating vegan, trying to be a Khalifa and a steward, believing in science, understanding God more? Which of these is right and which of these is wrong, and how do we find this in our lives? That's what this unit is about, and that's the sort of judgments they're going to be asking you to make. Good luck with your studies.